There's a difference between member berries and fan service. Okay, so member berries is uh, putting something in a show to lure you in, and many times when that's done, it's done erroneously, and they end up kind of pulling the rug out from underneath you, and they tricked you into showing up to watch it, and they do something else with the character or whatever. A good example might be Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi. You know, they turn that character on its head, and they use your nostalgia. It's nostalgia bait to bring you back in. Um, Over time, we've kind of started to recognize that, but they didn't do that. They did not pull the rug out from underneath us in any of this season. Now, fan service is something else where um, there are emotional, nostalgic, and emotional strings um, unique to a particular property or show that will be played in some way um, that will tug on your heartstrings in a good way. It as some people like to say, it does the feelers good in a way. A really good
Mhm.
example, and this is a good way to get us here, um, and that is the moment when they reveal that the Enterprise was rescued. That Geordi had spent the last 20 years restoring the original Enterprise because they brought the saucer section off of the oh gosh, I'm not a very good nerd because I can't remember the name of the planet it was on. Um, but you know what I mean.
And the
So they
reasoning behind it makes perfect sense,
yes, because they
right?
didn't want it to interfere with the it was the prime directive. The prime directive
Yeah,
dictated it.
they had to take it off of the planet, which makes perfect
Yeah,
sense. And then, who better to uh, take it and restore it than the person who's in charge of the
the Fleet Museum.
shipyard? Yeah, the Fleet Museum.
Yep.
It works out. I mean, it works
So
out perfectly.
yeah, so I would consider this a brilliant use of fan service, especially especially when we get to here. When we get to this, how awesome was this? And
I
in
don't know. It
more
looks a
ways
little
than
bit
one.
thinner than normal. Just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a inside joke, a line from Riker.
Yeah.
I remember it being bigger or something like that. Didn't he say?
Yeah, I remember it being
Um,
bigger or wider or something like
was
that. Yeah.
is this smaller? Is this smaller or am I just bigger? Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it
Um,
was. Yep.
yeah, Will, you're bigger. The attention to detail on this is just amazing. Here, but to stick with the subject of fan service. So here's a little bit of fan service, but done in a good way. So one of the complaints about modern Trek is the dark lighting. That was something that was introduced in the 2009 reboot. By the way, the 2009 and the movies are not in the same universe as the series, as far as we can tell. No one's made that definitively clear, but it seems that the prime timeline is what we're dealing with in Picard, and the movies was dealing with the Calvin timeline. But they did establish that there's this dark lighting, and even the first Star Trek Next Generation movie, in Generations, was a lot darker. Um, but did you notice how they slowly transit? Because this entire series is dark lit on the Titan and all them, other sets, right? But when they
Hmm.
get on the Enterprise and the lights come on very slowly to where you get to here, and it's lit not exactly, it's not completely lit up like the way the Next Generation series was, but it's a lot closer. I would count that as a particular attention to detail that does count as fan service. Um, but again, in a good way, not in a
Hmm.
cheesy way. It's not a member berry. It is this is something that it brings you back to a time that you have fond memories of. spending time on
Yes.
that bridge. And when they did that, it was like, oh yeah, it takes me back to that moment in a
Well,
good way.
did you notice that they put the original crew in their spot or in their places?
Yep, yep,
Data went to his
they did.
spot. Geordi went to his spot, not the
Jordy
engineer bay. He went to his spot on
is
on the
Khan.
left
Yeah,
side there. Yeah, to the con.
yep,
I mean,
yep.
and
Oh,
of
and
course,
they even
Beverly being at the battle station or the weapons officer. That was kind of cool. That is backwards for what you would think for the Doctor, but she's changed, and she even hints on that. They even
yeah,
mention that in the show, which is kind of cool. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no,
But then
I
you have
definitely agree.
yeah, then you have this. Now, did you pick up on this? So one of the things, Patrick Stewart, he's in his 80s. He's 82 or something like that, and he's definitely sounding, really weak in the vocal cords. And there's this one moment right here when he says
Mm-hmm.
engage, and he actually sounds strong and powerful, the same Picard that we knew. It's as if when they set this scene up, they built it up to this moment when he says engage, because they had him say engage earlier in the season on the Titan, um, but it didn't carry the weight as it did right
Mm-hmm.
here in this moment. Now, this is attention to detail. I mentioned this before we started talking on the video here. This is a screenshot from the actual opening of the Next Generation series, and they actually recreated it in the last episode with this. The actual episode episode 10 opens up with this shot recreated. Now that's a fan service thing for sure,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because the nerds like me would pick up on it, you know.
What about the music? Was the
Um,
music fan service?
yes and no. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can tell you how I felt about it. I mean, how it made me feel. It took me back, but it also felt appropriate.
It did.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because here's the thing: when it comes to filmmaking, characters should have their theme. Now, in the case of Next Generation, it's not just there's no individual characters. There's an ensemble. That ensemble is the character in a way, and they have their themes. Thanks for checking out this clip of Two Dude Yakkin. You can catch the full episode right here on YouTube and on our Rumble channel. That's Two Dude Yakkin. So please like, share, subscribe, and all those things. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.